My fellow Ambazonians, this is Dr. Cho Ayaba. Tomorrow is Country Sunday, and as I said the other day, our Country Sunday will continue until Cameroon is completely out of our homeland. It will not be suspended, it will not be abolished. It is not designed to impose pain and suffering on our people. It is a strategy of collective defiance against tyranny and against the occupation of Ambazonia. It is a day that our people collectively remind themselves of the blood spilled, the lives lost, the liberty taken by the enemy. It is a day that will go in our history as one day every week that all of us across the globe, in the homeland, in jails, in IDP camps, in refugee camps, remind ourselves of the responsibility we have for our country, Ambazonia. And I cannot thank you more for the sacrifices you continuously make on these days on behalf of our people and on behalf of our country. Last week, I met with Comrade Jomba Akoro and Comrade Sikot Judson on Momo. We know there has always been tension in Momo, and I thought it was important for me to have a meeting with some of the stakeholders, some of the people who come from especially the Mogamo area. And the aim is, how do we completely free Momo from La Republique's hands? Setting a bigger objective will help us work together to achieve that objective. If our objectives are narrow, control of resources, territory, who has what, it will be very difficult for us to work together. But if we set a bigger objective that is in line with the objective of liberation, we will see the need to strategize together and to fight together. The meeting went extremely very well, and we have not discussed yet some of the little problems, but it was a meeting of minds, a meeting of understanding, and a meeting to set the ball rolling on how we can bring our forces together, the human and natural resources together, to make sure that we can eliminate the threat in the state of Momo. I'm glad, as we agreed in the meeting, that Mr. Comrade Judson has sent out a statement, and we look forward to setting up a working group that will continuously have discussions, identify problems, and bring in solutions before they escalate. We will continue this strategy in other states as we consolidate. My strategy as a leader is to ensure that the territories that are under dynamic control are not lost to the enemy, that little infighting does not hamper our ability to maintain control over those territories, and that we must consolidate our gains, ensure that our children within those areas can go to school, as we have seen in Bui with a massive creation of community schools. We are receiving applications from different communities willing to create community schools, and we will be mobilizing resources to build schools for our children, to ensure that teachers are trained, teachers are given the support that they need to continuously educate our children, even in a limited way, to keep them away from delinquency and other forms of crime. The second strategy, apart from consolidations and stabilizing areas under dynamic control, is continuously take the fight to the enemy. And I am glad, and as you have seen repeatedly, our forces across the territory have shown that they are able to take the fight to the enemy. We must transform sporadic actions into systematic actions. War is not a movie where you watch, feel excited, and go to bed. War requires constant supply of materials, the welfare of soldiers. Even professional soldiers take a break. Our forces have been fighting for too long without having a break. That's why we are recruiting and training more fighters. Last week alone, we've moved in close to 15 fighters from different areas for training for the purpose of consolidation and deployment into the periphery for offensive actions. You should note that we've had difficulties in the past, we've lost grounds in the past because we allow ourselves to be ruled by the excitement of the moment. The Ambazonian Governing Council will not be influenced by finances. Its policies will not be altered by finances. This struggle has been hijacked somehow by people who had the possibility of having money, where they think they can use the money to influence temporal action for purposes of excitement. We will reject that completely. There is a comprehensive strategy that will lead to further consolidation and offensive action that weakens the enemy in terms of its legitimacy, in terms of its economic exploitation, and in terms of its morale, that will strengthen the hands of our diplomacy. In the past week, we've been making further progress in the area of diplomacy. We've been strengthened by our actions on the ground, and we are gaining more respect as different countries are considering different options in terms of bringing pressure to bear on Yaoundé. This morning, I had a short meeting with a couple of leaders from Biafra, and as we are all aware, Mr. Mazi Namzi Kanu has been released on bail. We now have clarity that he was abducted in Kenya. Further discussions will continue and will define a common strategy on how to stop African countries betraying others. Siseko was betrayed. The leader of the Kurdish resistance, Mr. Ocalan, was abducted in Kenya and shipped to Turkey. We know how they betrayed Gaddafi, who supported different liberation struggles within the continent. The status quo in the continent will not stand. It will not. The tyranny of a few who've engaged in corruption, using terror as a means of governance to deprive people of the right to govern themselves, has to come to an end. We will continue to educate Africans across the continent to rise up in different places to reshape the continent in a way that reflects the reality of the generation that has been ruled with impunity, denied access to services, denied opportunities, because a few old men who represent new colonial interests have hijacked the continent and taken it hostage. Our fight is that to liberate our people from the tyranny of a few, the occupation of static systems created for European and American interests. We seek no harm against others. We want to be free as peoples across the continent. Ambazonia is setting the pace, and we will end Cameroon's tyranny in Ambazonia, put it as an example for others to copy. Have a blessed day. God bless Ambazonia.